welcome back. This is Eric and my brother Ben talking to you today about 1978 Superman, the movie. And we're going to start off with the story, as always. And I just got to tell you, right off the gate, the first 48 minutes of this movie are the most painful 48 minutes, probably in cinematic history, in my personal opinion. I don't know how you felt about it.
It was so difficult to watch that I nearly fell asleep. Like, it was bad. It was bad. And if it weren't for the last half of the movie, this would have been like the bottom of my list.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, Ben actually made the comment when we were watching. We're like, especially when they were on Krypton, Ben was like, "Batman, the movie looked better than this."
It did.
It
did.
It was so bad. So again, I guess okay. Focus on the story here. The first 48 minutes actually covers a lot of ground when you think about it. It covers the destruction of Krypton. It covers the General Zod's banishment.
Yeah.
It covers baby Superman traveling to Earth. It covers all of baby man Superman growing up, being adopted by his aunt.
Yeah, Jonathan and Martha Clark.
Not aunt and uncle, but I guess new adopted parents.
Right.
His adopted dad dying, and then a little bit of like high school drama going on there with him for like a scene.
Yeah.
And then
briefly,
scene,
yeah.
And then he decides to randomly leave, which was never answered. Why he decided to do that, or why he decided to head up north specifically, or why he decided to throw a crystal into water, and why it all of a sudden sprouted a cave. Like
no explanation in the first 45
minutes. The first 48 minutes was just a big why to me.
Yeah.
The whole time I was like, why is this happening? Why is he doing that? And despite the fact that they cover so much ground, it is just boring. It's all get out.
Yeah, it feels like nothing happens.
Yeah, I don't know how they managed to make that much info and content just painfully boring to watch.
So dry. The moment that this movie gets good is the moment Christopher Reeves is on screen.
Yeah.
When he flies out of the Fortress of Solitude, it was like a whole wave of relief rushed over me, and I was like, okay, it's finally going to get good.
Yeah, the rest of it is actually quite watchable. There's a lot less why. It felt like the director was like, this is the story he wanted to tell. He just felt like he obligated to put the rest of it in.
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't focus on any of it until once Metropolis comes in. That's when the movie finally feels like it's focused and entertaining and more enjoyable to watch. I will say though, even though that is the case, it didn't really get really interesting until Superman starts actually saving people.
Yeah.
Which that didn't happen until about an hour. And so I would say the first half, because this is about a 2-hour movie, give or take. The first half of it was kind of painful. The second half was good.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. If you take the moment that Christopher Reeves shows up, and that's your whole movie, then those 15 minutes before he saves people is fine. Because it introduces Clark Kent as a person. It introduces, okay, he's going to be pretending to be real nerdy and real awkward so that nobody would suspect that 6'4" Clark Kent and 6'4" Superman are the same person.
Right.
Because otherwise, there's a lot of similarities. And so those 15 minutes made perfect sense to me. The previous 48 were the ones that I didn't understand really why they were there at all. Again, like you said, I think that our director, Richard Donner, felt obligated to put a Superman backstory in. The writers and the directors probably were like, well, we've never had a Superman movie, so we really ought to have a backstory in here. But I think that whole 48 minutes could have been summed up in like a 2-minute dialogue exposition, and it would have been just fine.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing I was going to say is, even though it got more entertaining and more interesting to watch, it felt pretty slow to me up until the end. Even after he started saving people, which was entertaining to watch. Up until Lex Luthor actually started developing his plan, there wasn't a lot going on. Like, it wasn't really clear what the story was until Lex Luthor actually started, hijacking the missiles and coming up with a plan to kill Superman. Which that was another problem I had with it, is it wasn't really clear why or how he knew the kryptonite would affect Superman the way it did,
or why he really wanted to kill Superman, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it never really explained that either. There were still quite a few whys in there to me, even after the first half. It just wasn't as frequent, and it didn't bother me as much.
Yeah.
But the first half, it was painful. I actually, I seriously gave the first half of this movie, or just the whole movie in general, a 2 out of 5, just because it bothered me. The first half bothered me to the point where I would have a hard time watching it again. just because the first half is so painful to watch.
Yeah. I was a little bit more lenient with it because I thought that the last half was good enough to make up for the first half, and I quite enjoyed it. Like I said, when Christopher Reeve shows up all the way up till the end credits, I enjoyed it. I didn't really have there. I mean, there was a couple of whys, but what movie doesn't have whys? So I gave it a 3. It's still not great, but it was pretty good. The acting was another part of this movie that I thought was a little bit subpar. For the most part, really the only character that I thought was a good character and well worked out was Superman. And the reason that my score is going to be as high as it is because he's the main character. I thought that Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor was okay. I enjoyed the scenes with him. He had some pretty good lines.
Why the number 200 is so vitally descriptive to both you and me. It's your weight and my IQ. Now think, people, think!
Lois Lane, played by Margot Kidder, I felt the same way. She did okay. I didn't have any real complaints. But like there was nobody that stood out other than Christopher Reeves as Superman.
And like Ben said, Christopher Reeves really did stand out a lot.
He did.
I loved watching Christopher Reeves. In fact, like Ben said, he kind of saved it for me a little bit just because he was so likable.
Yeah.
Every time he showed up, Superman had so much faith in humanity and he wanted to be so good, and he was just such a good person himself. And he had some pretty quick liners in there too that were pretty funny.
Did.
Bad vibrations?
But yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason that a lot of people, when they think of Superman, they think of Christopher Reeves as Superman, because he was very iconic in that role, and he was that character, and I really enjoyed him a lot. I also enjoyed Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. He didn't stand out quite as much, but I still liked him. Lois Lane really didn't stand out at all to me. I didn't have issues with her performance specifically, but unless she was a little bit of a spaz when she was in danger, but I guess that was just kind of what they did. With her screaming and all that, but
again, I think that part of the acting is made up by the writing, because Lex Luthor would have not been as fun of a character to watch if he had poor writing.
That's true.
And with Lois Lane, the actress I think didn't really stand out at all, but her writing made her stand out a little bit. Like when she was in the office, I thought she was pretty funny. She's running around real busy like.
Can't spell anything.
Yeah, can't spell anything.
Yeah.
And Clark Kent is like trying to follow her around all awkward. Well, gee, Lois, I just thought, there was the chemistry there, but I think that it was caused by the writing more than the acting.
I would agree with that for sure. Yeah, I gave the acting. This is actually the strongest point of the movie for me, and I gave it a 3 out of 5, which doesn't bode well for the rest of the movie. But Christopher Reeves really did save a lot of the movie for me. He was very enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I gave the acting a 2 because of Christopher Reeves. Well, because of the 3 main characters not being bad. The rest of the cast was just like there pretty much. I did like their boss quite well. He was kind of funny.
He was funny.
But yeah, I gave it a 2 just because 3 actors make a movie not.
Yeah, well, and also kind of just reminded me, the rest of the background, the extras, they were all terrible.
Yeah,
they were really bad, especially
part,
in the beginning with the people on Krypton. Their acting was driving me nuts.
Oh, Krypton,
it was so bad.
We're gonna get into Krypton when we get to the cinematic element of this. But yes, there's nothing good to say about Krypton.
No, it was all really bad. Yeah. So yeah, 3 out of 5, 2 out of 5.
The cinematics of this movie improved drastically when Christopher Reeve shows up. In the very beginning, the Krypton scene was terrible. It was hard to watch. And I mean that in every sense of the word. It looked terrible. Like the very opening scene, I made the comment, I was like, is this made out of Legos? It looks like they made it out of Legos. And
it really did.
Just to put this in perspective, Star Wars, the original Star Wars, A New Hope, came out the year before. They proved that things can look good in this time period. And Krypton did not. It looked terrible. And they were all wearing weird glowing suits, which was just a headache. And then even when they got to Earth, it improved drastically when they got to Earth. But it really wasn't until Christopher Reeve shows up that things were nice to look at.
Yeah, Gosh, I remember them saying in the beginning of the movie, they said something along the lines of how Krypton is technologically far superior than Earth. But man, they lived in like a house just full of light shining in your face. Like
Yeah,
there was
it
not, I don't
could
know
not have been nice.
how you survive that,
Yeah.
much less think that's more technologically advanced. Like it looks like crap the whole time.
It looked terrible.
And so I struggled a lot with the Cinemax movie. The special effects are dated, and I get that.
Special effects didn't bother me in this movie. Really what bothered me was the set design in the beginning.
Mhm.
Once that was gone, the rest of it, like, I can forgive dated special effects. They still had pretty long takes in this movie. It wasn't super flashy, which was nice.
It was
I
nice.
liked that. The costume design for the most part was pretty good. It felt very 70s, which, I mean, it was the 70s.
It was 1978.
But they made, what I thought was really clever is that they made Clark Kent very 60s. He had 60s words that he would throw around, and the reason for that was they had a scene where he spent 12 years in the Fortress of Solitude, which means that between 1978 and 12 years earlier in 1966, he was completely out of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so during that time, so I thought that was very clever. They had him dress in an older-fashioned suit. They had him say older-fashioned things. He had the big glasses, which were old-fashioned. And it was just very, very clever. And so I think cinematically, this was a good movie if you only count the last half of the movie.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and I think I was a little bit harsh on it, but I'm going to be honest, the first half just ruined this movie for me so much that I couldn't really get past it. I couldn't really forgive it for what they did during the first half of the movie. Like Ben said, it didn't look so bad towards the end. But even just the writing of the movie, there were just so many plot holes and questions left that I couldn't really give it too much. I gave it a 1.5 out of 5. Like, I really did not care for the cinematics of this movie.
I had to give the cinematics a 2.5. I can forgive the first half of the movie based off of the second half.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a recurring theme.
Yeah.
Well, putting it delicately.
Mhm.
Do you eat?
Yes. Yes, I do. When I'm hungry.
You do.
So the last topic, as always, is going to be entertainment value of this movie. And, you know, unfortunately for me, this is not a particularly entertaining movie to watch. It gets better. It does get better as the more it goes on. And the last probably 30, 40 minutes of it are pretty good. But I still, I mean, part of me is still like my 7-year-old self where I get bored. It's just, it's the first hour drains you, and then by the time you get to the end, I was kind of wishing that it was over earlier than it was. And I can't rewatch this one very easily. I mean, I think I've seen this one maybe twice in my life, all the way through. I've seen chunks of it more than that, but I gave it a 2.5 on entertainment value. It's okay to watch once in a while, but I can't rewatch it very often, if at all. Like, I probably don't need to watch the movie ever again. I'll be okay, to be honest with you.
I was a little bit more lenient on it. I gave it a 2.5 in entertainment, and the reason being that if I were to watch this movie again, I could just skip the first act, and I would have really enjoyed it. If the first act had not been there, then I think that I probably would have given this movie a 4 in entertainment. I really do. I enjoyed the last half of the movie. But that first act was so painful that it had to drop it to 2.5, which is where it will stay.
Yeah. So when we average all of our scores together, we gave this movie a 2.4, which is actually right between us. I gave it a 2.3 on my personal level, because I just didn't enjoy it very much.
I gave it a 2.5.
Yeah, so this one we were a lot more even on than Batman the movie. But yeah, so 2.4 overall. It's a pretty good rating for it. It's watchable. It's not terrible. And I know some of you who grew up watching this movie were probably sinners in your eyes for giving it this low of a rating. And I get that,
Just try to watch it again, see what happens.
Yeah, honestly, nostalgia packs a powerful punch. I get that. I definitely have movies I grew up watching that I probably like more than I should.
We'll talk about some of them later in the series.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But this one we didn't grow up watching it, so we had a fresh view on it, and maybe it was good back in the day, but it does not hold up. It does not hold up well.
Yeah.
So,
well, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Next week we'll watch Superman 2, the sequel.